Hello there. What is going on, everybody? We have ourselves a little preview from yesterday's live stream from Atomic Mass Games of the 501st command cards, as well as our Swoop bike riders for the Shadow Collective. How are you guys doing today? We're going to talk about these new previews that we got today. What you're looking at behind me is just a little preview of the battle that we did see. We have a bunch of 501st, and we have a bunch of Shadow Collective. Look at all those new symbols. We talked about those recently. So we're going to talk about the new stuff that was spoiled in this game. And we're going to kind of give some thoughts on it. I'm going to give you some of my thoughts, at least. If you guys are new here to the channel, we are still doing that big giveaway for the Shadow Collective core set. And I'm going to be announcing that probably within the week. So you'll typically have to watch to at the end of the video to see if you're a winner or not. Again, all you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Simple as that. All right, so let's also thank today's sponsor, which is, of course, Luxury Playstyle. Amazing full metal tokens. Be sure to check out luxuryplaystyle.com. These are absolutely fantastic tokens. They're double-sided. I love them. You're going to love them. Use code Crabbok VIP to save 15%. And orders that use that code, if you spend $35 or more, you're going to get a free lightsaber and nunchuck token with the Crabbok symbol on there. It's a fantastic token. Head over to luxuryplaystyle.com and check them out. All right, so first off, we have some 501st command cards to talk about. We also have some information that came out. We are going to be talking a little bit about that information. And basically the 501st, as well as the other battle forces, the 4 battle forces, will be available to you before the those physical packs come out. While you are going to get like the all the paper and the hard plastic cards, not plastic cards, but the hard hard card stock cards and everything in those packs, if you want to be able to print and play, which is perfectly legal, you'll be able to print and play all of those command cards, and as well as get your rules and your battle force rules and your force organization charts and all of that stuff. That is going to be, they're shooting for the first week of July when that will be available. Now, I think some people are also wondering, is that going to coincide with the launch of the new website? My guess, I don't know. My guess is probably not. The website seems like it's still, like, I feel like they'd be talking about the website a little bit more. So I think once you hear more about the website and you get more of a concrete date on the website, then that'll be nice. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, AMG has been kind of working on trying to get a big website overhaul that will have like proper sections, and it'll be easier to navigate. Because if you just go to Atomic Mass Games right now, atomicmassgames.com, all you're going to see is Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff, and you might not even know that they have any Star Wars games. You have to go into the top right and basically basically select some things. So basically, we got our 501st command cards to talk about. And this is the first one. We're going to talk about the leaders of the 501st. It's a 3-pip. This is one of the 3 command cards that are going to be available only if you are playing a 501st Legion army. Now, what is a 501st Legion army? That's going to be a army that is only using stuff outlined in the Battle Force document and fits into the force organization chart of the 501st. What we know is that, of course, everything that comes in the 501st starter set will be legal, like Phase 2 clones, Anakin Skywalker, Commander Rex, also the Republic ATRT is also going to be there, and ARC Troopers. Those are the only things we know for sure. It's definitely been hinted at that the LAT will be available, and we're unsure of anything else specifically. We do know that Wookiees won't be available, which kind of makes sense, and Phase 1s may be available. We don't know. I think Phase 1s kind of seem like they'd obviously be available, but we don't actually know that. They certainly may end up not being available. Of course, I'll be talking about these more when they are all released. But the leaders of the 501st is the first one that was shown today. This is going to be the 3-pip. It is a permanent upgrade. So that's the first thing you're going to notice. You're going to see it's permanent, which is really cool. It's going to give allied units range 1 to 2 of a friendly Anakin Skywalker or a friendly clone Commander Rex. They're going to gain Indomitable, which is the red dice when you're, like, the Wookiees have that, right? So basically it's going to help you get rid of suppression. That's going to be good. But it's permanent. So now there's obviously a little competition with Anakin's cards to play permanent cards early on. That's one of the things. Any card that's permanent, you kind of want to be a first, second, or third turn play. You kind of Okay, when you're running Anakin Skywalker, if you're running Anakin Skywalker, you know, this one will compete for when you play it. And so it probably won't need to necessarily be a first turn play, primarily because you're not going to have any suppression on the first turn. Well, I mean, not much right away. You certainly can gain suppression on the first turn, but panicking and the need for Indomitable becomes more pronounced by, you know, turns 2 and 3 and 4, and as the game goes on you get more and more suppression. That's when it becomes more of a big deal. So this one can probably wait. I feel like if you're running this with Anakin, you know, it could be a turn 4 play if you end up doing that, or you have the options to play it when you want. And so it might not seem like it's that great of an option with Anakin, but look, now you got 4 permanent cards with Anakin, and there's 6 turns, so you definitely have room to make this work. It's definitely a better option to include with Rex, because Rex doesn't have any permanent cards. There's really nothing competing for it, and it makes for a really good opening card, either a really good turn 1 or turn 2 card. It is giving a lot of orders out there. It's going to allow for fire support and things like that. And in this one, it can order 3 special forces or 3 core units. Now that's going to be a pretty big chunk of your army, since that's kind of what we got right now. We just got those. So pretty cool stuff. So that's our 3-pip. Next up, we're going to talk about lead from the front. Now this one is, first off, this one's weird, right? It's a little weird because it's a 1-pip, but that counts as a 2-pip. So a little bit of shenanigans there. It's not the first time we have seen shenanigans like that, but it is definitely shenanigans. The cool thing about this at first, so before we even look at the body of the text, it's a 1-pip. It counts as a 2-pip when you're building your hand. So that means you can have 3 1-pips. This kind of gives me a little bit of a sense of Anakin kind of taking on that Maul persona, right? Because that's one of the things that Maul can do in the Separatists. Not Maul from Shadow Collective, but Maul in the Separatists, right? Well, I guess Maul and the Shadow Collective can use those same cards also. So I guess any Maul can do this, really, is have 3 1-pips available, because he's got a 3-pip that has a 1-pip. And so, like, I feel like this is kind of showing Anakin sort of embracing the dark side. So I think this is a good one to include with Anakin more so than with Rex. Whereas this one might be a little bit better and more effective with Rex as opposed to Anakin. Lead from the front. I think a fantastic card to include, you know, in that way. So I thought that was a kind of a cool thing. Now, also says it's a commander unit only. Again, of course, you know, very much mirroring that. After a friendly commander is issued an order by this card, choose 3 other friendly units within range 1 of the commander unit. Each of the chosen units gains an aim or a dodge token. Now, this one is really interesting because it says 3 other friendly units. It doesn't say what type, so you can choose ARC Troopers, you can choose that Phase 2 clone that's loaded up, that maybe has targeting scopes on it and things like that. Or you can choose a vehicle. You know, giving vehicles aims is a great thing to do. And you know, the other thing that's cool is if they do eventually add more stuff, like if they add Ahsoka. Whenever Ahsoka gets revealed and comes out, if Ahsoka is eligible to be included in the 501st, this could be a way to get Ahsoka a dodge token. You know, again, if you put more Jedi in the 501st, then you'll have the option there. So I thought that's kind of cool as well. So it's got some future stuff. So as more things become available and there become more uses for dodges and aim tokens, this one's value will also go up. But I think the real strength of this card isn't so much in the fact that it is it's giving out some aims and dodges. Again, that's great. I think the biggest strength in this and that is it's an extra 1-pip. It doesn't count as one of your 1-pips. So again, this is allowing you to run 3 1-pips with Anakin Skywalker, and I think that's a very cool thing. And then we have our third card. Now, this one is weird because this one's also a 2-pip. I was expecting this to be a 1-pip. And it's not. So what this actually means is that the 501st doesn't have a true 1-pip. They have no cards that count as a 1-pip, which means the 501st has 2 2-pips when building a command hand. And so this one is weird. This one is, again, it's only going to go into, you know, I don't know. It's to support or Special Forces units. And all right, so we'll look at what tactical planning does. After a friendly support or Special Forces unit performs an attack against a unit, it has a face-up order token, shuffle that token back into its order pool. If you are an Imperial player, you will recognize this basically as pinned down. It's it's the same thing, except for pinned down is support or heavy units, whereas this is support or Special Forces. So it's kind of like these Imperial tactics, like this is where they learned it from, right? And so it's kind of cool that it's showing that progression. But I think you have a little more flexibility here because those Special Forces units have multiple weapons, and so you can have a 501st unit with 5s in there or something like that, like splitting fire and putting way more than just 2 units, right? And it doesn't have to be a friendly Special Forces or support that has a face-up order token either. So if you are, if you have, HQ uplinks and other things like that out there, you can potentially put a lot of order tokens back. Now, granted, I don't think you'll really need to worry about doing HQ uplinks and stuff like this, but it'll give you more flexibility for sure. Because if you're able to get like one good split fire off, if you win the bidding and you go first with this one, if the opponent plays a 2 and you win the roll, or a 3 pip, or standing orders, well, if they play a 3 pip, like this one really beats a 3 pip very, very well. Or other certain cards, like it's really good against fire support. It's really good against activation control, where they're trying to make sure that somebody can 100% go last, or against like Rex's 1 pip or something like that. So it's really good for that, and it has when it works really well. And then if you end up playing this against like a standing orders where your opponent doesn't care, then it's going to be less good. Like this is going to be less good against the Shadow Collective because they don't want to issue orders. They just want independent and just get free stuff by not having orders. So you like if that's the case here, you're just like, oh, okay, I guess But it's really strong against certain builds, especially those builds that want face-up orders out there, and that's good against it. Dooku has a little something that's kind of like that as well, which is fun. Again, it's situationally useful, but when it's useful, it's incredibly good. We also got to look at the Swoop Bike Riders, and wouldn't you know it, there is actually a Rebel and a Republic symbol up on there. Now, if you look up in the top left of this card, next to where it's a Raider, we learned about the faction the factions the other day, the images for those. We did learn that in the live stream that those gray symbols that are there when there isn't a faction, those gray symbols don't actually have any special meaning. I point this out because a lot of people have kind of already assumed the gray symbols didn't really have any specific meaning. The gray circles are just there for if you have no faction. So those are just an empty spot, and they're kind of holding the palette or the template open. But so it was good that they were actually able to confirm that, because there was always a part of me that's like, until I really hear it for sure, we're not going to know. So I do want to point out that it definitely seems like there is a misprint on this card. But let's talk about everything that's plain and obvious on this card. It's a support. There are 2. You get 2 units in a Swoop Bike Rider. Now they have a larger base. We watched the live stream. They have a base that appears to be ATRT sized. So they are a slightly larger base, definitely larger than the normal speeder bikes. So that's good. That's good, and that's going to be important because they have an overrun weapon. They do have cover 1, which you would kind of expect from speeders. They have independent aim or dodge 1. Okay, independent's a good keyword. I like it. It's going to take a little different playstyle, but that's okay. Independent aim or dodge 1 is good. They also have reinforcements, which is really groovy for these ones because they get to go last. I love reinforcements as a keyword. I love the tactical ability that it gives you, and I think it's super groovy. And of course, they are a speeder 1, so they get to ignore height 1, and they get that compulsory move. They have a speed 3, so they're gonna be fast, a lot like speeder bikes. They have a much weaker weapon than the speeder bikes. That heavy blaster pistol is only range 2, and it's only 2 dice and has no keywords. So if you have both of your units alive, they are going to only get 4 dice, which is not particularly great. Imperial speeder bikes have a lot more ranged attack potential, but the Swoop Bike Riders make up for that with their Vibro Axe and Overrun 1 keyword. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Overrun. Because I had some questions, because we've had only one overrun before. It was with the Wookiee Fluttercraft. And overrun was cool. It's like basically if you just fly over somebody, you get to do the overrun attack. Now, that's what basically overrun is. A free attack. It's an overrun attack. It's not a ranged attack, and it's not a melee attack, and it can't be fire supported. So, and you can't add additional weapons to an overrun attack. Now, because there are 2 minis in here, it's important to point out that it only will trigger when the leader overwrites somebody, because the leader is the one that actually moves, and so if the leader moves over the unit, then you get to do the overrun attack on the defending on the unit that was run over, or at least one of the units that was run over, if you happen to displace or run over multiple units. However, overrun overrun is unique, and this is available now in the RRG. It's one thing I haven't really looked at that closely before because I never really needed to. Overrun only gets added to the attack pool 1 time per overrun attack, regardless of how many miniatures you have. So even though there are 2 minis alive, if you have 2 minis, you're still only going to add a red die and 2 white dice to that overrun pile, so that attack pool. So while having 2 people alive does give you something, isn't going to add. You're not going to be running a 6 dice overrun attack. However, since the keyword on the weapon is overrun 1, that is a stackable. It's a numeric, right? It's an X value, so you can make that overrun 2. And what overrun 2 gives you, if you're familiar with the Fluttercraft, it means you can potentially run over 2 units and then perform 2 overrun attacks. Now, since you're a speeder, you're only able to actually displace on the compulsory move. So you'd have to do a normal move over somebody. Now you won't be able to displace them, but if you move over them, if you move through them, then you'll still be able to trigger the overrun attack. Which means you can potentially do, if you got both unit, if you're healthy, you can potentially do 3 attacks in 1 turn. It'll be hard to pull that off. It'll be real hard because you have to be able to make sure you're moving through 2 units and with compulsory and then another action, and then you also have to be range 2 of a unit, and that's also a little bit limiting. But it is possible, and I think that's pretty cool if you're fully healthy and you meet all those criteria. I think on a good turn for Swoop Bike Riders, you'll probably get 2 attacks in, but on a great turn, or maybe a perfect turn, you just might be able to get all 3 attacks in. They have 3 health. They have no resilience value, so don't have to worry about taking damage or getting damaged cards. You have to worry about taking damage. Period. You do have a white defense die because again, there's not much to them. But your surge chart is where things are going to get a little interesting here. You've got surge to hit, and then you've got critical to block. Well, I think it's what seems to be the obvious typo here is that this critical was probably a surge. It's probably surge to block, but I can't say that with absolute definitiveness because for all I know, the error could have been somewhere else, and maybe it was supposed to be surge to crit and something, and then it got pushed down to the next line and bumped things or whatever. I don't know how formatting errors might have worked on this thing, but I think that's what everybody seems to infer, and that's probably, and maybe by the time you watch this, AMG will come out with a statement saying Swoop Bike Riders should actually say surge to block as opposed to critical to block, because there is no such thing as critical to block. We can certainly speculate, and it's fun to kind of be like, well, does that mean if your opponent rolls a crit, you get a free block? Which could be a cool thing at some point, but if that were the case, there'd be special text talking about it. So it's actually surge to hit and surge to block. That's certainly what it appears to be right now, and I think that's what everybody's gonna, going with until we hear otherwise. So that's pretty good that you got surge to hit and surge to block. It helps you work in a fire support faction like Republic. I don't know if they're better than Barks or not, because you're gonna be going in there. You can't fire support with the overrun, but you can get lots of extra attacks in, and that's kind of fun. So these could be these might be a really fun unit to play. I think overrun's a fun keyword, going right up the middle. Not everything has to be super amazing in order to be good, and I think that's where these guys are going to fit. And we'll have to see. They might fit really well into the Rebels, though. I think they'll work really well with Rebels, especially since you already have, your speeder bike, which is a heavy, or I'm sorry, your land speeder, which is a heavy. You can have a lot of speeders, and you don't have, you don't have that super fast speeder support for the Rebels. So whereas the Republic already has barks, and the Empire has their speeders, and then like the Separatists have their staps. I think like this fills a hole that the Rebels, didn't have. Well, I guess it's gonna be a fun thing. I think it'll be a fun thing. So and then the Republic, or if you want to go heavy into Overrun, I mean, I guess you've already got Fluttercraft too, if you're running with Republic. So maybe, I don't know if this will, I think if you're going heavy Overrun, maybe you just run all Fluttercraft. But then again, since they're a support and they're a merc, you can take one of them. You can only take one, right? Now, if you have Allies of Convenience, you could take another one. But that's basically what how the mercs are going to work. You get one for free of each rank that you can include. Doesn't count towards minimums, so your core it won't count towards that. But for core, you get a second one, so you can take 2 core. So without having to run Allies of Convenience, you could run like 3 Rebel Troopers and 2 whatever, and then like 1 Swoop Bike, and then something else. If you want Allies of Convenience in there, then you could get a second Swoop. But Rebels would not ever be able to take 3 Swoop Bike Riders, at least that we know of, unless of course something comes out. Like, for example, maybe if you got Enfys Nest, she could, in theory, give you like the ability to take extra Swoop Bike Riders. Of course, I don't think Enfys Nest would have Swoop Bike Riders. I think Enfys Nest would have her Marauders, or whatever they're called. So that would probably be a whole different unit altogether. But that was something I was thinking of. The Swoop Bike Riders would probably be a little bit similar to Marauders, but I do think if they do Enfys Nest, they shall have the ability to dismount, which would be a whole different word, and then maybe you flip the card over, and then cool stuff like that happens. Or just be a whole different card. I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about units that aren't, that don't exist yet. Anyway, the Swoop Bike Riders seem pretty interesting, so it was kind of cool that we got some previews of some of the Shadow Collective stuff, as well as the 501st stuff. So again, we got that Tactical Planning card. We've got Lead from the Front, and we've got Leaders of the 501st. I want to hear what you guys think. What do you think is the best out of these? I feel like it's going to be Lead from the Front. Only problem with this card is that it's a 2-pip instead of a 3-pip, and there's a lot of stiff competition for the 2-pips. And I feel like, I'll admit, I was really hoping that the 501st was going to give Rex an excuse to take his 2-pip again, to run Take That Clankers. Like, there would be something in there that like made Take That Clankers like suddenly, good again. And they did the opposite. They put a must-have 2-pip in here, and now and then you got to run Anakin's 2-pips, or like there's so much competition for 2-pips already that this one, like it makes that stiff, which means I'll probably never run Tactical Planning. But Tactical Planning is not a bad card, so like if you do want to run this, then you definitely can't run Rexes. And so if you're running Rex, maybe you just run Tactical Planning and Lead from the Front. Whereas if you're running Anakin, it's got to be Lead from the Front and then all of Anakin's cards. So I feel like Take That Clankers is kind of like one of those like Take That Clankers. Get it? It's like a meta Take That. And anyway, I don't think I'll ever run Take That Clankers again. It's a shame because I used to love that card. Granted, maybe it was a little OP, but now it's rough. It's rough. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I want to thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make the channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Goodbye there, and always wear your socks, unless you're wearing sandals or if you're barefoot. On second thought, wear your socks when you deem appropriate.